You guys can remember Awkward Season 5, Episode 14, What the Fuck Happened Last Year, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, especially because of the way the mid-season premiere started. I know a lot of people really hated the mid-season premiere, but I think it's mainly because it's different. It really is. I mean, we're going in a much different direction, and the characters are now grown up, and I understand that some of them haven't grown up, and maybe they kind of rush things, but this was basically the catch-up episode. That's exactly what this was. So it was the catch-up episode. It's exactly what it sounded like, and let me just say this. Most of this episode was really great. I mean, a lot of the stuff we had in this episode I really did enjoy, but me personally, there is some stuff that I feel would have actually been more beneficial to the plot had they actually focused on, maybe one episode on this thing or one episode on this, but I'll get into this. Let's just get into this episode because we actually start off with, we only get 2 scenes in the present in this episode, which a very wise choice for them to do that. I gotta say, the editing of this episode I really did enjoy in the present part of it. The past I thought was a little bit messy, but let's get to the present part. We see post-sex, Luke tells her that she has changed and starts tugging at her strap, but she tells him he's distracting and she has to work, and right away he sees that her desktop is a picture of her and Matty, and he says that he has pictures of his ex too, and makes sure they're no longer together, because obviously he just had sex with her, and he doesn't want to make it seem like, he doesn't want to think he cheated on, Matty with, he doesn't want her to cheat on Matty, obviously, and he asks what happened, and she says she hasn't been up to talking about it, and she even tells him that they can't even talk to each other, like, they're not just friends, they can't even talk to each other right now, and he says he's sorry, he probably shouldn't have asked, it just because it's her, and he cares, which does get her to talk, because she sees that he cares, and that's really what it is. He genuinely cares about her, he wants to know what's going on, and she figures that even though she doesn't really want to tell the story, and it's really hard for her to tell it, she decides, you know what, I'm just going to tell this story. So then we jump 7 months earlier at Wycoff, and we get pretty much everything we've wanted to see here, and I really like the way they handle this. We see Jenna tells her friends that she's never been more in love with Matty, he's going to be there tomorrow, and she's got butterflies. They hate the long distance, but in many ways, it's been good for them. And her roommates tell her that she needs to invite him to the Halloween party, and it's going to be the party of the year. And of course, we know the last time that she was active on social media was October, and we start to understand why in this episode, because everything that happens between Jenna and Matty takes place in October, and she says that there's no way they're gonna miss it. Her FaceTime goes off, which gets them to leave. She then unbuttons her shirt to show her chest off to Matty, but then realizes Tamara was the one calling, who tells her boobs got bigger. And what I liked about it is that a lot of people said that the dynamic between Tamara and Jenna is now lost because of her friendship with Sadie, but this showed that these two did try to stay in contact. They did, even though they couldn't because of long distance. They still tried to stay in contact, and I like seeing that. Jenna asks Tamara if Matty would be into a stage reading of an Edgar Allan Poe poem, and Tamara says that if Matty, and Tamara tells her not to do that to him, and she says she knows for sure that, he's taking her to the co-op Halloween party, and Tamara said it's a lot out of a bed action for a bonathon weekend, which that's, basically for a bonathon weekend, which, that's what obviously they want to do. But then one of Jenna's classmates then knocks at her door and thanks her for loaning him the book that she gave him. They make plans to discuss it on Taco Tuesday, and you can really tell that Jenna's made a life for herself here. And we knew this obviously because of last week's episode. We know how much Jenna's changed, but this showed even more that she really feels like she belongs here. She has friends who care about her, and I like seeing that. And she then tells Tamara that she knows the timing sucked with the Adam breakup, and Tamara said it's fine. He was committed to serving the country, and she was committed to being a teenage bride, and she thinks that she's finally over Adam, and she's going out tonight, even though she goes out most nights. And here's the thing. Tamara said to Jenna that she would have known that her and Adam broke up because of social media, but Jenna literally just said, I'm sorry about Adam. Now, she knew that they broke up, but from what Tamara said, it seemed like they broke up after after Jenna went MIA on social media. Now, apparently that's not the truth, but we do start to understand more what's going on, but at this point, I'm like, I don't know if that really makes any sense, but it does make sense a little bit later. And Jen is then told by one of her roommates, Berta, that they're having it. Now, I love this character of Berta. She is basically a slightly less, into status, and, she's like Tamara, but she's not into all the cultural statuses and, events and things like that Tamara's into. But she is very hyper, and I like her character. I hope we see her again. I really liked her. And they're having a roof party, and Tamara tells her to go because she has to primp and crib before dinner anyway. And we get one of the best twists in this episode. Tamara then sees some of her classmates, and we clearly see that for the first time, she doesn't fit in with these people at all. I mean, she really has no friends. They want nothing nothing to do with her big personality, and she doesn't follow the dress code anyway. And obviously, it makes sense why Tamara would do that. But Tamara tells them she already has plans anyway, but she doesn't. And I really did feel bad for her. You see that she doesn't really fit in, and I like seeing that. My only problem is that for me, this and one other arc in the episode should have been its own separate episode. We could have had the first scene of an episode be the scene with Tamara, and it would have been really heartbreaking to see. I really wanted to do a Tamara-centric episode where we saw how she got, became friends with Sadie, how she got out of this, whatever situation that she was in, and how we saw that. And we kind of did in this scene, but they didn't really do that exactly the way I wanted them to, because again, like I said, I really wouldn't have wanted this to be a separate episode and have Jenna and Matty just be the entire episode, because that's mainly what the episode focuses on. That's mainly what happens. So Maddie surprisingly arrives very early at the campus and kisses her, and she asks who he got there, and he said that his soccer game was rescheduled, and he says that she's sorry for his team and she's not sorry for them. He says he missed everything about her. They go into a room to have sex. We're reminded how great chemistry these two have. I heard people say it's lost. No, I still think they have fantastic chemistry. You really do see that. And then Britta walks in on them and tells Maddie that he's tall and hot in real life, and he thanks her. And I like that Britta's kind of like starstruck, like she's seeing this celebrity. It's pretty funny. Jenna asks Britta if she can let them catch up, and Britta says that she gets it, but everyone is hanging out in Charlie's room, and her ex Sed is there. She just feels she still may have feelings for, and she can't see him without her. And Jenna says that Maddie just got there, and he says if she wants to go, then he wants to go, and if there's beer. And Britta then takes a picture of them to show young love does exist, which is the one that's saved on Jenna's laptop, which I thought was a very clever way to do that, the way they did that. I can understand some people think it's a bit on the nose, but it makes sense. I mean, obviously, there's a great picture, and plus, it's the only picture she'd have of them for a while, since he's just visiting. So then we see Lissa is back here as well, because we also find out in this episode what happened between Lissa and Jake, which again I feel should have been a whole separate episode, because this was the one arc that didn't really work for me at all, I have to say. I mean, it's a good setup, definitely. We find out that, Lissa greets her mother and everything, who's happy to see she's home for fall break, and they're to celebrate her birthday, and we find out that Lissa isn't just there for fall break. She dropped out of college, and it's a good setup, definitely, but they just don't really go anywhere with it that I wanted them to go, and we'll get into that. But at the party, Maddie is offered the signature drink that is named after their school that he clearly feels shouldn't be named after the school, and they're surprised since Jenna loves it. And it shows right away how just, insignificant Maddie is to this group. He doesn't fit in at all, and he's really only there for Jenna, and he's only gonna be there for her, and he doesn't care that he doesn't fit in because he just loves Jenna so much, and it really just shows that. I heard some people say Maddie was very out of character here. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as Maddie really wanting things to be back to the way they were and weren't, and he's frustrated with just what's going on. Really, he is. And basically, Britta then asks him for his top 5 postmodern writers, which is a seminar her and Jenna are doing together. Maddie names off some writers, and he asks if this is what they do at parties. Britta says they live in the woods and have the campuses boycotting social media, and that makes sense why Jenna kind of went dark on it, because that's something that she had to do. But you can tell it definitely does get worse, obviously, because she just completely stopped using it and stopped contacting everyone. And they name some writers that he clearly doesn't know much about, and Maddie asks Jenna if she wants to go back to her room, and Jenna contemplatively decides to, just because she can tell he's not having a good time. They have sex. She then wakes up late for her class, but doesn't really care since she's happy. Maddie says she's leaving him for a stranger, and she says he's going to have a great day on campus. She made a list for him and names all things he must do while at the campus. He has to see the list and then grabs Jenna so she can't go to class, but then she goes, and it really is a sad scene because you see that Maddie really doesn't fit in here at all, and he kind of just wants alone time with her, and that's it. So Tamara's then at a store buying some t-shirt, which she then realizes are $585, which again shouldn't surprise us because we heard that how much she spent on clothes from Jenna, in New York City. She talked to her about that in the last episode. But she's shocked by, but he's even more shocked to find out there are organic cotton Eponine tops, which I have no idea what that means. But Sadie's in there, tells the clerk to go quickly, and isn't happy to see Tamara. And, you can tell that she, this is the first time that they've interacted in a while. And you can tell why these two are going to bond a little bit. And we definitely get into that. So then we see Leslie said, Lissa's mother, Leslie said that Vanderbilt had a lot to offer. Lissa says all she had was slow Wi-Fi and way too many classes about books. And Leslie says she could have met her future husband there. Lissa says she did like the boys, but once she realized all she wanted to do was be a Palos Hills mom and decided to get advice from her, Leslie says she loves her plan. When the waiters come out to sing her happy birthday, Lissa sees that Jake is one of the waitstaff, tries her best not to break, and he tries his best not to break character, because it's obviously very awkward for him to see Lissa and everything. And it's not that I didn't like the way this was done. I did. I think, again, they had a good setup here with Lissa not wanting to go to college because she wanted to go to school, and that's very much with Lissa's character. I mean, Lissa, it's been proven that Lissa doesn't want to do anything that requires work. It's that simple. Lissa does not want to do work. She doesn't want to have to do things for herself, and she wants to do things simply. That's just who Lissa is, and that's always been her character. She's always been lazy, and this just goes with that. And I like her encounter with Jake. It definitely does make sense. But the way this was done, I will admit, was a bit forced. I mean, she just happened to run into Jake in this restaurant, and he just happened to be working there. It did feel a little bit forced. I mean, it did feel like this was very underwritten, I will say. Out of everything in this episode, this was very underwritten, and I really wanted to see more of Lissa and Jake, because there's a scene we get a little bit later, which I'll get into, that really didn't go much of anywhere. So Jenna comes back to find Matty in bed. She says it smells like boy and calzone. He said he did have calzones by delivery, and she asks if he's been there all day, and he says it's like 2 degrees outside, and he's resting her up for her, tells her to put the hippie stuff away and come back to bed with him, and Jenna admits that she's a little bit spooked, because he's literally just staying in bed all day. He's not doing anything else, and Matty's been sleeping all day, and she tells him that they need to get their costumes ready for the party tonight because it's Halloween, and she wants to go to this Halloween party. Despite the fact that she knows he's not going to have a good time, and he knows that as well, he's going to go because he just loves her that much, and I think that's the thing with Matty. A lot of people said, oh, he's not in character. It's because Matty doesn't fit in here. Matty's always been, like, the alpha male. That's how he's always been. He's always been, like, the alpha male who he has tons of friends, and, you know, he's a nice guy, though. That's the thing with Matty. He's always been a nice guy, and that's the thing with Matty here. He doesn't have the heart to tell Jenna, I don't like this. He doesn't have the heart to tell her that, and you can definitely see that. So Lissa then goes outside to talk to Jake, who admits he was embarrassed that he took the gap year and he feels he should have gone to college. She tells him college is really hard and confusing and stupid. And I love the line where she talks about how there are different classes in different rooms, and he's like, I think it's pretty much how it's supposed to go. I thought that was pretty funny. And he asks her if she dropped out, and she says not going to college, one of the best decisions of her life, his too if he lets it. And Jake's boss then comes out as if he's rolling a joint. Lissa says he literally gets him fired just to point him in a different direction, says he now has to spend the rest of the day with her. He says he needed that job, and she says she knows a place to hire him, and this didn't come across as her doing a good thing. It came across as him really fucking things up. I mean, that's really what she did. She messed with his job. He got fired, and now he has to spend a day with her, and she has to get him another job. Now, I would have liked this more, like I said, had we spent more time in it. But we only get one other scene from this plot, and it really didn't do much for me. And I really don't buy that Jake and Lissa would get back together. I would have liked this more had they been talking. Maybe had they been talking and, you know, communicating, that would have made sense to me. But it's clear that Jake really didn't want anything to do with her, and clearly it was weird seeing her, and now all of a sudden he does want something to do with her. That didn't really make sense to me. It feels like definitely there was something missing. There was just a lot of lazy writing that, like Lissa, they didn't really want to tell the story. And I feel like there was definitely more there that we didn't get to see. And I really feel, had they done more, that it could have been a really interesting plot point. Like I said, they set up some really good things. Lissa not wanting to go to college, you know, wanting to stay in Palos Hills. Jake taking this gap year, not wanting to take it. They could have done some good stuff with that, but they just didn't do enough, I think. Because they focused so much on Jenna and Matty, which, like I said, the Jenna and Matty stuff was perfection on it in this episode. Honestly, it was amazing. I love the way they handled it. And especially this next scene. Jenna and Matty show up at a costume party. Jenna's dressed as her favorite author. Matty didn't dress up, but she doesn't care because they're together. He's just in, like, a football jersey, and Jenna's friends figure Matty's just dressed up as an athlete, but then they call him a dumb jock, and he's not gonna let this bother him because he's been called this before, and he continues to enjoy the night, even though he clearly doesn't fit in there. His friends have a perception of him that's not really true. They think he's a surfer. Matty asks Jenna if they can leave because he's getting tired, and she says he slept all day. He says he didn't know it was a problem, and she says they're having a great time, and there are so many more friends she wants him to meet, and he says straight out that her friends are boring, and he doesn't care about anything they're saying, and I like that he said this to her, because you could tell that he really wasn't having a good time, and he really wanted to get out of there, and I don't think this was Matty just being a jerk. He just wasn't comfortable around them. They're not like him. They don't go with, you know, what he likes and what he dislikes. They aren't for him. They're not his friends. They're her friends, but they're not his friends, and I think he realizes that. So Jenna says they can go. Sadie then tells Tamara to let Jenna go. And I love this scene between Sadie and Tamara. It shows that while Sadie isn't going to change, who she is going to change how she feels about things. And I like seeing this positive direction for Sadie. She says she doesn't need her. Tamara says she should be letting her talk about Jenna that way, and no one gets to accept her. Sadie says they had such different high school experiences, and Tamara says back then she had a best friend that responded when she contacted her, and now she's MIA living a 24-hour party person while she feels like James Franco in under 27 hours, only she's not going to cut off her arm, she's going to die, and Sadie says she makes her feel sad. Tamara says she hasn't found her crowd yet, and she always has one. Sadie tells her to stop screaming like a hysterical menstrual cramp and tells her not to worry about Jenna or anyone back home. She's in NYC, forget about that life and those losers and start living this one. And Tamara asks how Sergio likes that. Sadie says they have an agreement that they're going to get back together next summer, and that's where you understand what's going on there. This wasn't Sadie being obsessive with Sergio. They had an agreement. They said, look, we're going to get back together. Sergio was the one that messed up. He was the one that decided to get another girlfriend, and he probably completely forgot about what happened to Sadie, but Sadie didn't, because it's clear that not much really happened to her here, and she's basically she's kind of living in the moment, and she said that she's really loving where she goes to a great school with great friends. And Tamara says to tell her more. Sadie admits her friends are nerds, and she really kind of hates them. They never want to go below 2nd Street, and Tamara says that's where she lives. Sadie says that she's crashing at her place tonight. Tamara agrees and says they should leave before the bartender boots them for ordering large zilches, and Sadie says they're not shopping until they order tons of martinis and bad decisions. And Tamara says she has no money and is living the impossible dream, and she tells her tomorrow they're going to get her a credit card and a fake ID. And even though she's having her make bad decisions, I like that Sadie's kind of just living in the moment, and she doesn't really care what she's doing because she's just enjoying herself, and I like seeing that. So definitely really good stuff there. But like I said, they're not the thing that's underwritten for me. Everything with Lissa and Jake, they're the ones that are underwritten. And I do feel they could have done more, though, with this. Had they done a Tamara-centric episode, which we've never had, by the way, and I think would have been really cool in this final season, because this is the final season. And let me just tell you, it does not at all feel like a final season. Like, definitely, the first half of the season felt a lot more like a final season than the second half. This really just feels like a continuation of the show that I feel isn't necessary, but they're doing some good stuff with, so I'm not just gonna say, it's completely pointless. I think they are doing some good stuff here. But I really wanted them to maybe play around a little bit more with this. Have an episode with Jen and Matty, then have an episode with Tamara and Sadie, and then have an episode with Jake and Lissa. Yes, it would take up a fifth, like a fifth of the second half of the season. I understand that, but it's stuff we need to know. I want to see what Lissa and Jake have been up to, and we really didn't get to see much of that. We saw how they met up, and we saw how we know everything we know in the last episode, but we really didn't get to see what their college life is like, things like that. We really didn't get to see that kind of stuff, and I wanted to see that. Maybe see Lissa in college, and then she realizes it is not for her. I would have rather see that than have just this random scene with Lissa and Jake that we do get, which I'll get into. So Maddie complains to Jenna about her friends, and Jenna says she doesn't have to fake it in front of them because she likes them, and I like that she said that she's not faking it. She genuinely likes them, and she says she likes what they talk about. He says he's sorry for not being pretentious, and she says he doesn't have to be pretentious, but she does want him to at least try, and all they've done since they got there was leave parties, and he says it wasn't even a party since there was no cake, and she asks if he came there permission to be a jerk, and she says she's sorry her friends aren't as cool as his soccer friends, and then that's when it comes out. He isn't into soccer. He quit it because it's not as big as a deal as riding the bench in the sun, and he doesn't like them. He didn't like his friends. He thought that they were jerks, and he never was going to be as good as them, so why waste more time? And they didn't even care when he left, and he kind of just left because they didn't really care, and you can tell that Maddie is now struggling where to go, and I like this direction from him. I always saw Maddie as the struggling one, not really knowing where he's going to go. I mean, the thing with Maddie is that he's not a jerk, and he probably is the guy that everyone thinks would be a jerk. He's that guy that he's on the football team. He's this huge, quarterback and everything. He's this huge, well, not he's on the soccer team. He's this huge star and everything, and everyone loves him, but he's not a jerk. He's a genuine nice guy, and I think everyone knows someone like that, and Maddie is that guy, and that's why he doesn't fit in there, because he's not this crazy alpha male. That's not who he is, and basically, I like the way this was done. This felt like a very mature situation because Jenna really has changed, while Maddie isn't really changing because he hasn't really found his group yet. And Basically, Jenna says is what freshmen are supposed to do, and she says that she would make it a big deal, and it's not. And she says if it's not, why is he so pissed? And he says he's not, and she tells him she's sorry. They get into bed away from each other, like literally they're not even in each other's arms. They're like sleeping sideways, completely away from each other, and you can tell that they're very slowly starting to disconnect, and you can kind of see where things went wrong. And then we get what I think was the most random scene with Lissa and Jake. Look, Lissa looked really hot in that bikini. I definitely will say that. She's a very attractive woman. Great grammar in general. Oh my god, she's very sexy. But the thing about this scene for me was just it didn't do much for Lissa and Jake's plot. What it seemed like it was doing is here's how Lissa and Jake got together, and that's all this really did. It didn't show what Lissa went through. It didn't show what Jake went through. It just is here's how Lissa and Jake got together. It was very simplistic, and I didn't like that. Jen and Matty, they really developed what they've both been up to, and I like seeing that. Lissa's hanging out by the pool. Jake says he starts tomorrow at the country club. He's just going to be folding towels, but his boss Derek says upward mobility is a thing there. She congratulates him. He thanks her for saying at the interview and for putting in the good word for him. She says it was easy. The last guy was ugly, maybe on meth. He asks if she will let him take her out to dinner as a real birthday present, and she agrees. And why all of a sudden would he do this? I understand it was a thank you. That's why he did this, but he started out this episode not wanting anything to do with Lissa, and then all of a sudden he wants to take her out to dinner. It just felt very underwritten, and he lies on the other chair. They both agree it's much better than college. I get that they're trying to show that Jake and Lissa are supposed to be the ones that are happy and that they are probably the ones that are the most carefree out of everyone. I understand that. But when you started the episode with Jake wanting nothing to do with Lissa and being very embarrassed that she's there, and then the end of the episode wanting to get back together with her, it just didn't really make sense. I really wanted more to this, and like I said, I really felt this was very underwritten. Did it ruin Lissa and Jake? No, I love their characters. I love Lissa as a character. I love Jake. And that's the thing with the show in general. I love all the characters on this show. You guys know that. I've watched this show since season 1. Well, not since I've watched since season 3, but I binged the first 2 seasons very quickly. You guys know that. Before season 3, before the second half of season 3. You guys remember I did that. But like I'm just saying, I really felt this was very underwritten. They could have done more with it. So Jen then wakes up. She doesn't know where Matty is. She thinks that he's just gone, but luckily he just went to the gym. She says she thought he left, and he says he went to the cafe to get 4 croissants, and there's only one left for her. He apologized for last night, and she was right to call him out, and he's glad she did. It's a wake-up call. He decided he wants to make some changes, and here is where we realize the main reason why they broke up. And of course, we all were wondering, was it something that Matty did? Was it something that Jenna did? And it turns out that it wasn't something that either of them did. They both are just, they're not really, we'll see, I'll tell you, well, let's get to it. Basically, he says that he wants to go there. She says he already is, and he says he wants to transfer to Wycoff, and she obviously is freaked out, and he says she looked freaked out, not even a little bit excited. She says she is, but it's just a lot to take in, and she didn't realize he liked Wycoff so much, because she clearly does not like it there, and he's clearly only going to be there because he can be with her, because that's where he feels safe, and he says he likes it a lot more than Berkeley, and she says they don't even have a soccer team. He says he doesn't play anymore, and she says it just seems like he doesn't like most of the people there. He says he does, and she says he called them boring weirdos. He says some of them are, but he's sure that there are some interesting people there somewhere, and he's not transferring for them. He's doing it for her, and that's the reason why she's upset, because he's not doing this for himself. And she says that he's running away. He's not coming there because it's rights. He's coming there because it's not Berkeley, and she's not going to do that for him and won't be that excuse for him. And I understand she's being very defensive, but she has a right to be. I mean, he's acting very immature here. He basically is relying on Jenna to make him happy, and that's not what he should need. He shouldn't need Jenna to make him happy. He needs to make his own decision. As much as she loves Matty, she loves him that much that she wants him to make his own decision, and she wants things to turn out right for him. Because if he's going to be one of those guys that's just with his girlfriend, doesn't really have much direction, he's not going to have much of a future. And obviously that's something that she wants him to have. And I can understand why Jenna really thought Matty was stupid for this, because he was, honestly. He really was dumb. And, she said she won't be that excuse for him. She said if he truly wants to come there, that's great, but do it for him and not her. He says he is. And she says she doesn't know if she wants him there, and she says she didn't mean that, and his expression completely changes it, because he thought that she would be happy about this. The problem is that Jenna's changed. Jenna's not this girl that's awkward anymore. Honestly, she's not really awkward. I mean, there are places, of course, where she doesn't fit in, and places where she does fit in, But the thing is, everyone's awkward here. That's the thing. Everyone's awkward here. That's why she fits in there so well. But it's also the fact that she really has changed. She's now more grown up. She knows herself. She knows what she wants to do. And Maddie clearly doesn't. And he says if this is how she treats the person she loves, he doesn't want it. He won't be at Wycoff or in her life. He then takes his bag and leaves. And you understand why Maddie's really upset. I mean, he's hurt by what she did. I mean, and I don't think it's so much what Jenna did. It's more how he's feeling. He felt like Jenna could make him happy, and she clearly didn't. Now he's realizing that no one really can make him happy, and it's really sad, honestly. I really did feel bad for Maddie here, and it wasn't really either of their faults. I mean, a lot of people can say, oh yeah, Maddie kind of ruined things and kind of just abruptly left, but that was his choice. He left, and he wasn't enjoying Wyckoff. He probably wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway, and it probably would have been worse for them had they not broken up then. So it was a very hard breakup, you can tell. She calls Tamara. She's not picking up as she's busy bonding with Sadie, and this is where you start to see how things came into play, how Tamara started to ignore her and be with Sadie, and you kind of see it as maybe Tamara just didn't want to talk to Jenna because she was listening to Sadie's advice. She said, move forward, and that might be what's going on there. So with Tamara accusing Jenna, she has no right to do that, because to me it seems like Tamara was kind of just ignoring her while Jenna was trying to reach out to her. But you can understand why she obviously wanted to boycott social media. She wanted to be away from all the drama and just focus on herself, and I love seeing that. But then we see back in the present, Luke says he's sorry. She says she didn't realize how badly she needed to let it out, but feels a lot better and thanks him. Lizzie then comes in, asks them what's going on, seems very against them hooking up. Now, what's going on there, I have no idea, but that's how the episode ends. And like I said, I'm partly satisfied with this episode. I like the stuff with Jen and Matty. I like that we found out what's going on with them. I like seeing that. Tamara and Sadie as well, I thought that was well handled. You understood why these two become friends. But Jake and Lissa was very underwritten. There's a lot more stuff they could have done there. They could have made a lot more interesting. And for me, it just wasn't enough for me to care. Not that I didn't like their arc, I don't really think there was enough in there. I feel like they could have done a lot more with them and they didn't. And like I said, very underwritten between those two. And it wasn't bad like what they did with them. Like I said, they had some good ideas, but it just came across as very underwritten for me. But I really love what we got with Jenna and Matty. What's going on with Lizzie, though? Why is she upset with Luke and Jenna hooking up? Do Luke and Lizzie have a past? I feel like maybe they do. Maybe there's more going on there. I mean, we don't really know. That's definitely very interesting. Why doesn't she want these two together? I think Luke is good for Jenna, though, because he cares about her, and he genuinely wanted to hear her story. He didn't force her, but she just said it because she felt close to him, and she felt like now was the time to do that, and now she feels better about herself because she told everyone this story. And is there a chance that Jenny and Matty could ever get back together? I mean, he needs to focus on himself, and he needs to focus on his future, and that's why they can't be together right now. He needs to focus on himself, and she needs to focus on herself. She's focused on herself. We don't really know what Matty's been up to, though, and I'm interested in seeing really what's going on there, what he's been up to, things like that, because that will really determine if these two can still be together. Tamara as well, like I said, I really feel Tamara is a big reason why Jenna and Tamara aren't as close anymore. They're still friends, obviously, but she's gotten so close with Sadie and move forward that she's kind of forgotten about Jenna. So it makes sense why people forgot about her. It wasn't just a stupid thing the writers decided to do. I think they had it make sense her, and I definitely really like that. But like I said, Jake and Lissa, terribly underwritten. I really feel there's going to be the two characters this season that don't have a lot to do, and I really feel I hope they get more to do, because this is the final season, and I want to see them get more to do here. We'll have to see what happens there. But overall, guys, let me know if you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I do think this was a much better episode than last week's. Not that I didn't like last week's episode. I thought last week's episode was a really strong premiere, but it did feel very abrupt. I definitely will say that, and it didn't really feel like a premiere for the second half of the final season. More like a second half, more like the beginning of something else. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Daredevil, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.